Hi, and welcome to the 68th TiddlyWiki Hangout. I'm Jeremy Ruston, the inventor of TiddlyWiki, and I'm joined today by, from left to right on my screen, by Yaka. Yaka, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself, say where you're from, and say something about your involvement with TiddlyWiki?
Yeah, so I'm Yaka. I'm hailing from France. I've been involved as an end user mostly and sometimes publisher on TiddlyWiki for a couple of years now, mostly in Classic. And I've come back recently with the announcement of the 5 version. Mostly interested in TiddlyWiki as a publishing and sharing platform with a special eye for micro content. I tend to approach TiddlyWiki as some sort of hypercat 2.0 of sorts, and I'm proudly representing the non-technical idiots on this panel on a regular basis.
I don't know about that, Yaka. Your feedback is very informed, in my opinion. Branimir, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself, say where you're from, and say something about your involvement with TiddlyWiki?
Yes, of course. Hello, my name is Branimir. I am from Sofia, Bulgaria. I am only a user of TiddlyWiki. Started more than 3 years ago with TiddlyWiki Classic. At work, started to use it as a documentation system for our development team. And lately I switched to TiddlyWiki 5, which is now stable. So I'm trying to move all that I have written to the new TiddlyWiki. I'm using it for various things like personal recipe book, like keeping notes for my car services and parts, and for work, for developer documentation, for writing scripts for tips and tricks. Other documentation and ideas are coming more and more.
Indeed, and Branimir showed us some of his work with TiddlyWiki last week. Ed, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself in the same way?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, Ed Dixon. I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm new to TiddlyWiki. I'm exploring its potentials for educational use, and I'm finding a lot of potential there. I'm blown away by the quality of the community here, and really happy to be here today.
Brilliant. Glad you could join us, Ed. Great to have you here. Felix, hiya. Would you like to, it's your first time on a Hangout, would you like to take a few moments to introduce yourself, say where you're from, and say something about your work with TiddlyWiki?
Yeah, hello. My name is Felix, and I recently started using TiddlyWiki about a few months ago, primarily as a user, and now I decided, well, I use it to structure my I'm currently doing my thesis at university, my master's thesis, and I use TiddlyWiki to structure my thoughts and my notes and all that. So it's quite perfect for that. And I realized that I built a graph-like structure with all my notes. So now I took the next step and tried to develop a plugin with which I can represent this graph of nodes, and yeah.
Felix, what's your PhD thesis in?
Again, I didn't hear you.
What's your thesis about? What topic?
Oh, it's how to integrate content easily and automatically calculate the content to be displayed for the user. So it should be all done automatically without much human interaction, except that the human integrates the content, and afterwards the website takes over and calculates everything.
I see. That's a very interesting topic, and I think one that would touch the interests of a lot of people in the TiddlyWiki community. In fact, there's and I know Ed is, I believe, an educator, but certainly interested in educational aspects of TiddlyWiki too. Great. Well, the first thing we're going to do when we finish the introductions is come straight into your demo of the Taskgraph plugin, and looking forward to that very much. Finally, because we seem to have lost Eric, so Mario, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Mario Pitsch from Austria, near Salzburg. Contributor to TiddlyWiki Classic with plugins and themes, and yeah, translation for TiddlyWiki 5.
Indeed, one of the mainstays of the TiddlyWiki 5 contributor community. Well, great to have you all here. Thank you very much for giving up your time. And of course, what we normally do in these sessions is work through any questions that have been dropped into the Q&A app, and I'm just having a look, and there haven't been any this week. So we'll do our normal free-ranging agenda, but we're going to start with Felix's demo of his Taskgraph plugin. So Felix, let me very briefly introduce it. That as Felix said, he's not been in the community for very long. Appeared a few weeks ago, was asking lots of quite interesting questions from my point of view. These were obviously the questions of somebody who was looking quite deeply at TiddlyWiki. And then with a tremendous flourish, Felix unveiled the plugin that he's about to show you, prompting a round of more excitement than I've seen for a while on the TiddlyWiki group. And I think it's true that many people have envisaged something along the lines that that Felix has produced, and it's been an omission in TiddlyWiki for a while. And interestingly, I don't think that there's a recent TiddlyWiki Classic plugin that does the same thing either. So it's rather nice that it's happening in TiddlyWiki 5. But Felix, over to you. Looking forward to seeing this very much.
Okay. So I will just switch to my demo screen. 1 second. So everybody can hear me?
Yeah, we can see and hear. That's great.
Okay. So yes, I already said the idea emerged when I realized that my TiddlyWiki structure is really like a graph. So and at the same time, I was working on my master thesis, where I also work a lot with graphs and visual representation of graphs. And I looked at different frameworks like vis.js and other JavaScript frameworks to represent graphs. And then I thought it's a great idea to actually not create something new, but build it on the structure or on the TiddlyWiki library. So yeah, maybe I don't know, I would just talk randomly, and if you want to know something, you can just
that's
stop
great.
me.
No, Felix, it can be quite weird when you're running a demo, because people will respectfully be quiet until they've got questions. But no, but this is exactly what we want to see, is you explaining not just what it does, but also what your motivations were in implementing it.
Oh, okay.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, the idea is you have one. Okay, you can see my mouse pointer. Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So the idea is you have a main editor on the right side, in which you can manipulate and create graphs, and then you can create views or snapshots. And views are actually the same thing like SQL views, which is a pre-select. So or it's a stored filter. So a view is actually a TiddlyWiki filter. And
this identifies both
select
the nodes and the edges that should be included in the graph.
Again, I didn't hear it. Sorry.
The filter identifies the tiddlers corresponding to the nodes that should be
right.
in the graph.
So at the moment, I have this basic graphical interface, and it's only possible to say, okay, I made a very simple example. Wait, I switch a view. I go here. And let's say you want to create a new view with default settings, and then I start from here. So now I say everything tagged with node should be in here. And at the moment, the filter is just based on the tags, but in the backend there's it's just a normal compiled TiddlyWiki filter. So I could also just create a text field here which says enter your filter, and then the graph would filter according to the TiddlyWiki filter. Let's see. Oh, I don't have Firebug on this PC, but you can see in the debug information that the filter it builds according to the tags you create here. So let's say I just created a simple view like this with the filter node, and now what I would do is create a snapshot, which is basically cloning a view, so I can edit the filter independently, and I would just give it the name view1. It doesn't really matter, and it's automatically loaded, and of course no nodes are here at the moment. So if I double click here, it automatically realizes it's in this filter mode. So I will just delete it just to demonstrate that. So I say I changed this filter like this, then, and if I double click, it already prepares the node, so it will show up in the filter. So if I say now I have an idea, like a typical mind map always starts with a central topic, then I will say idea, and it starts here. So now what you could do is you could add more nodes. I don't know, I'm not very creative at the moment, so
proof.
I say books or something. Proof? Yeah, proof. So, wait, how do you spell proof?
No, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that was correct. Okay. Yeah. And I can draw an edge. And now this is the new functionality or the model I was asking so much about being integrated, because I create this dialog here dynamically, which means I pass all the callbacks and all this to create a new tiddler, and when it let's say I create a new edge or edge type, it's actually a type because it goes for many edges created like that, and when I press OK, it will realize the dialog stores a result in a new tiddler, a temporary tiddler, which triggers then a callback, and the graph then knows, okay, there's a result and I can use it. So now I have created this edge type, and it links the two tiddlers, and the information is not stored in any of the tiddlers. Oh, by the way, I'm currently using the ID mode, but I can also switch it off and just use everything without IDs, but I use IDs because then if I change the title, the edges won't disappear. So nothing is, no metadata is written to any tiddler yet. And if I click on edge type, you see it creates a new tiddler. Okay, it should be a system tiddler, but anyways, and it stores from and to, and actually you can store many other stuff, like if you want to specify a color or something, you can also store it in here, and the edge will have a unique color or a different size or something. So, but I haven't implemented that yet, but you could do it programmatically. So, but so this is where edges are stored. And for example, if I create a new node, okay, it should. I've not implemented it yet, or it's not in the online version. But if you click here, the tiddler should come at this point into existence and not here. But
right.
This is a minor issue, yeah. So I create an edge from here to here, and now it already knows there's a new edge type, so I can select it and just use this edge type here. And if you see here, this one changed. The edge type now has another edge inserted. And yes,
Can I stop you for a second to just ask a question about? I guess you could have stored each edge as a separate tiddler, but you chose to store all the edges of a given type together. It'd be very interesting to understand the advantages and disadvantages of that.
Yes, of course. So I also thought about that. Well, my first idea was how can I quickly, if I want to rename all the edges, because sometimes you have created many edges and then you want to rename them.
Yeah.
Because so I thought, how can I do it in a very feasible way, in a quick way? So now, if you would rename an edge, you would simply go to your edge store or edge type store or whatever, and you will just rename it.
Yeah.
And now, okay, I haven't triggered a reload now, but if you go now, it's whoop, should be renamed. Okay, why isn't it renamed? Wait, let me start. Okay, because I've recently done some refactoring and I've taken some code. Oh, I didn't store because it's an online version. Okay, whatever. So, but it should be renamed then. So if I, I decided against, again, I thought storing edges in nodes. Again, was your question, why didn't I store each edge in a tiddler?
Yes, I mean, but not to suggest that that I think any particular way is better. I'm just curious because it's the sort of thing that
because I also thought if I want to quickly, well, you see here I have a field called edge filter, and if I want to quickly enable or disable a filter, I don't want to run all the time over all the tiddlers and take a look inside it. Say wiki get tiddler, open it and check the fields. But I wanted to have all the edges of a certain type in one place, just for convenience, because I thought if I do operations, they will concern all the edges of that type, because it's a type and it should. That's why I thought if I store each edge in a separate tiddler, then I have to look into each tiddler and update the name. Or so this was my idea. But then I also thought there's another idea, storing each relationship as a tiddler, but well, okay, this is quite different. I mean, making an edge becoming a node itself was also an idea. You know, in the semantic web, you have relationships, and they can be a literal, and they can also be a resource themselves. So now, in this case, relationships are literals. They are just names, and they have many edges belonging to them. But I also thought about the idea representing an edge truly as a tiddler itself, and then making it possible to refer to an edge by a node, making it also a node. But I thought maybe this would add too much complexity to the whole stuff, so I thought
it's the kind of decision I think that's quite difficult to know the best answer to until you've kind of done it. And so often the best thing to do in that situation is to choose the thing that's kind of easiest to do, most convenient, and then at least you've got something to then experience and try out. That makes perfect sense. I take your point about renaming.
I think renaming is the biggest problem here, because if you need to do some renaming, then you need to touch every tiddler So if
Yeah, true.
if the edges are nodes, then you have to touch them, and yeah, you add all the complexity which is needed for renaming. Yeah.
There is, to be clear, there is a even more complicated format that could be used, which is where you have a tiddler corresponding to each node, a single tiddler corresponding to each type of edge, and then each actual connection being a separate tiddler. So then you've still got the rename thing, a single tiddler to rename. But you've still got a whole bunch of anonymous tiddlers that are just links, and they're
I had to make a decision how much I represent as tiddlers. I mean, or how much let's say I can represent each entity in my graph or everything I do as a tiddler, but I could also bundle certain stuff that is common and then put everything in a tiddler and use some JSON or some attributes to yes. So I try to go between these two extremes.
Yeah.
And I thought it's a good idea to represent nodes as tiddlers because I think nodes really correspond to tiddlers.
Yeah.
Because also when you click a node here, buy beer for friends, it will open, so it corresponds to this node. And but for edges, I thought, okay, I can go a different way here because it's not so important as nodes. Yeah, so this was my design choice here.
Felix, I've seen in the vis.js documentation, I think I've seen a different notation to define edges. So there's just a name and then a minus, I don't know, they have a textual notation which is different. Is that true?
You mean to define edges?
Yeah.
Well, edges are the vis works library works like this. They have an object called dataset. You can use two mechanisms. One is you can simply input an object which contains nodes and edges, and nodes being a JSON object with an ID and a label at least, and then you can also add other attributes.
Yeah.
And an edges, the edges property is a list of, it's also a JSON object with all the edges. But when you use their dataset object, then instantly when you add an edge or something, the graph gets updated because it propagates the event. And edges are just a single edge is represented as a single JavaScript object, and it can have different properties. Like, wait, I will just open the I outsourced the properties here, and if you take a look at, is my screen still on? Yeah. If you take a look at nodes, this is basically what you can specify. Some options for the nodes, for all the nodes, but you can also on a node level, on a single node level, define which color you want, what's the shape. So it's really interesting. For example, just think of it. You can really customize it here. So if you want shape, okay, I don't know. Do they have a triangle? Or I don't know, but maybe they have a circle, but I'm not sure. I don't want to mess it up. But you can, yeah. But you have different choices.
We can read the documentation and have a look. So, but you basically can change the basic layout. Yeah.
Yeah, everything, and you can also change. They have 3 physics modes here. Barnes Hut, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, which is a gravitation simulation. The nodes have, they are all drawn to the center. At the same time, they try to get away from each other, so it stabilizes at some point. And you can also use different other levels. They have a very interesting mode which is called clustering. When you have many edges displayed on the screen, then you can say, let's say there are 100 not edges, nodes. When you have 100 nodes on the screen on the display, then it will start clustering, and when you go close to a node, it will pop off and show different nodes which were in this cluster. So it's a way of I don't know, optimizing the view. Yeah.
You can make hierarchical diagrams.
Yes, you've seen that. Yes, you can make hierarchical layouts, which is cool. When the problem here is, let's say you see this graph, for example. I created requires, and depends on 3 edge types. So if you have a hierarchical layout, you don't know how to structure this hierarchy because you don't know which edge is superior, so how to structure it. But if you, I will enable this edge filter here. So when you click it, you will only have, for example, edge filter only depends on or requires, and then you could really use the hierarchical layout, because then it's clear. Structure it by this edge type, and from top to bottom, I think it's like an organigram, and then it should look really nice. But of course, if you have some floating nodes, they won't be, like, they will be a little bit off from the hierarchy. But there are many possibilities here. That's why I also chose this this library, because they have many modes you can use, and what already comes with the library is the graphical this bar here where you can say edit edge, for example, or you can delete something. And but what I'm doing here is for example, if you click here and say delete selected, then I will intercept their event and use my own calculations, because I want to make sure everything is deleted from the wiki as well, not just from the graph. So I intercept these events. But what's nice is, for example, I didn't have to calculate this line here. They already gave me a way to represent that graphically, to draw an edge. And once this is done, boom, I trigger a dialog, and from here I do all the calculations. I add the node, and then I say, okay, this is what happened. I call a callback from the framework, from the library, and then yes. So, and what else can I show? Yeah, at the moment the graph. I think Danielo said it's annoying that it floats, and I agree with him in a certain way, because it's sometimes you just want static graphs. So I introduced an option where you can disable that. It's not working at the moment, but I will fix it. And yes, so if you want to know, okay, maybe another thing I can show you, because I'm already here in the plugin folder. Where is here? For example, this file here, adaptor. I called it adaptor because what it does is I try to separate the TiddlyWiki functions from the graph functions that I use with the vis framework. So it's a layer, basically, this adaptor.js. So I don't go and say insert this into this tiddler, and when you delete this edge, also go into this tiddler, and this is like an abstraction of everything. So I just say, like in a database, I say, I can open it to show you. I go here and say insert edge into store, and I say which edge, and then I don't care what happens anymore. And what this does is it looks if the edge is in TiddlyWiki, and it makes some calculations and comparisons and all this, or I can say select nodes from store. So it's a layer of abstraction that I don't have to, that I can be more concise with my code in the other JavaScript files. Yeah, for example, what else do I have here? Delete edges from store. So I just regard TiddlyWiki as a store, as an underlying store, and I interact with this store via this adapter. Well, I also make exceptions to that, but I try to put everything in here, which as a middle layer. But maybe also what's interesting.
Can I just ask, what module type is that module then? Is it a...
Yes. Okay, you got me there. I think. Well, I just said it's a library because I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, I didn't know.
Yeah,
which.
No, that's correct. That's the right thing, I'm sure. How interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. How interesting.
So Felix,
yeah.
So it would be possible to have the edges could be tags too. So I think it would be relatively, using this adapter would be relatively easy to calculate a data set which creates the relations out of existing tags. So for example, if you have a table of content, it would be possible to give you a data set that is built from those tags.
Sure, because you know what's the underlying magic here is wait, let me I have or you can globally register views, and what this does, wait, now I will go to my point. Select nodes from store. Yeah, actually this is the magic. I pass a compiled filter, and the nodes it selects are you can just specify any TiddlyWiki filter you want, and then say select nodes from store, and then it will create a graph based on this filter. So, and the edges, it will just use the edges that are already there for. I mean, if it sees a node, or okay, the step is the process is the following. First, it gets a filter. Then it will try to select all the nodes, pass it to the graph, and it will also register a function that when changes are made in the wiki, only those changes will be propagated to the graph that correspond to this filter. So it selectively updates the graph, and in the graph, the nodes, it will check for each node, is there anywhere an edge that exists that corresponds or that connects this node? And if yes, if there are two nodes in the graph which also have somewhere an edge, then it will also display this edge. But if you said you want to create a graph based on
I want to create edges. I think I want to create edges based on tags.
Edges based on tags.
Yeah, I just need to create edges tiddler and say, okay, select those nodes and use these edges with the view. I think there is.
Okay, you want to create edges based on tags. Yeah, but you need some pre-calculation there, because you have to say I want to have all my. Well, I will give you. I can also implement that you can say create an edge on the fly and use the name of the filters that currently exist, and then you can have for each filter for each tag you can have an edge. And then you can use these edges to connect Well, yeah, I get your idea. I mean, I have to think about how it would be suitable, or how you can use this in an efficient way, or how you would implement this. But I think it's highly possible you could do this.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get you right, you want to use your already existing tag graph. I mean, you have relationships. Tags are relationships in its core.
Yes.
So you want to use that to quickly calculate a graph. Okay, I get it. I will think about it, and I will just write you an answer in the forum. And
no
I
problem.
think it's
One of the things, Felix, that's very interesting to see during this presentation is that you're how difficult it is that the appetite in TiddlyWiki plugins is to have a great deal of configurability. And so if you look at Eric Schulman's plugins for TiddlyWiki Classic, one of their really obvious characteristics is how many of them have really extensive configuration options.
Yes.
What I'm seeing here is you've got that JSON tiddler, and yet at the moment there's a bit of a jump between that JSON tiddler and the kind of UI that we would like for end users to be able to adjust those settings. And that's an area I think I need to pay a bit of attention to, because we have the same problems in the core where there are a number of magic tiddlers essentially that need to be configured. Here they're magic properties of a JSON tiddler, but still it would be very nice to make it easier for you to put up one of those user interfaces that exposes all of that JSON stuff. And makes it easier, therefore, to cater for what I think you're also seeing, how for every passionate user of TiddlyWiki, there's a slightly different use case for Taskgraph with a slightly different configuration desired. The challenge of how to provide that kind of flexibility.
Yes, my idea was to, for all these options here, to create a tiddler, which is, I mean, at the moment I have here a button Quick Help. And wait, did I actually click it? It's
no.
Yes. So, and what I wanted to do is similar to this. If you click Options, then you would have a tiddler appearing with all the customization represented as a graphical user interface, and then you could tune your graph. And I try to outsource as many options as possible, but of course to the end user it's not that nice to configure a JSON file. So I try to make a graphical interface. And yes, maybe that was your point, or?
Well, my point is recognizing one of the challenges that you've got is to cater for the broad demands of the TiddlyWiki community, that you need to expose as much configurability as possible. And it's something that I think the core can help with by establishing, it should be easy for you to say that those
okay, now I got you. Yeah.
There should be a way for you to add some metadata that causes those tiddlers to appear in control panel with the right text and the right options for the user to manipulate them.
I would love that. If there's any mechanism where I can quickly say this option is a string or a selection or an integer, you may represent it as a slider or something. This would be really helpful. Yeah, of course.
I think so too. Yeah. So that's on my list. I'm interested. You've got a roadmap tiddler there. Could you show us what's on your roadmap?
Yeah. Well, it's basically a roadmap looking behind me.
Yes.
And maybe looking at this roadmap, I can draw some inspiration. What else I can show you? What I did was I separated my plugin development into 3 or 4 chunks, and at first I tried to simply integrate the graph and connect it with TiddlyWiki. Try to insert everything at the right place, which was really easy because the TiddlyWiki system putting a tiddler into a tiddler and by tagging it, making it appear somewhere, it's really great. So now while doing that, I understood why you once said TiddlyWiki is like Angular JS, or because it really hooks everywhere and it propagates all the events automatically just by saying or just by tagging it. So it's really really easy to do that. And then at first it was only putting everything in TiddlyWiki, and then I spent some thoughts on how could I create edges, and I realized, okay, you cannot just always go to the graph and draw edges because sometimes you don't even have a graph. You are just like this, and you don't want to work with a graph. So this is what's here. I thought, okay, on a tiddler level, you need to connect the nodes. So I introduced these buttons here. And this is, I think, in one of my videos, I've already shown that it's you click a tiddler, and it will store the current tiddler in a reference tiddler, in a how do you call it, system tiddler. And then you go search another tiddler, let's say, I don't know, you can just work and do whatever you want, and then you find another tiddler which you wanted to link, and it will appear here as well. And now you have these two tiddlers here, and you can create an edge without a graph, so you just say proceed. Now also the dialog is dynamically generated. It shows you all the edges you could use, and you can specify an edge type. Is that a word? I don't know. I just wanted to type something.
It's a good name. it should be a word.
Yes. Okay. Just so maybe now it's not offending. And so now I don't know if I go to Taskgraph. Okay, I will go to the default view, which displays everything. Where is it? Did I even link it? Okay, in this demo version, some weird stuff happens. I don't know where some connections, why they are not appearing. I hope you are not upset about it.
No, that's fine. I've seen buggy software. I produce it all the time.
Yeah, the thing is, it worked before the refactoring, so I'm a little bit annoyed. I try to make everything clear and try to polish my code because I wanted to publish it soon. And now I also realized now deleting some edges causes an error. But okay, but the important thing is that it's easy to understand what I'm doing here.
Absolutely. So, yes. No. I think that's, again, what's very interesting is that it's a very standard TiddlyWiki 5 piece of user interface, a little drop down on the tiddler menu. But I think the way you've integrated it with the workflow is really interesting. The way that you can fill in that dialogue in 2 steps by visiting 2 separate tiddlers. That's really powerful, quite interesting.
Yes, because often you find yourself in the position where you don't have all the tiddlers on display at the moment in your storyline, and then you say, okay, I want to link this tiddler, but I don't want to go to the graph and search it there, and but I will use the TiddlyWiki normal search, and then I can connect them with these buttons which memorize the tiddler I clicked before, and then it will also be loaded into the graph. So I wanted to make it as convenient as possible to create a graph, even if you are not currently looking at a graph.
I think you've also got some search functionality that you haven't shown us.
Oh yes, but it's not implemented. Basically, I was still thinking whether I should integrate it like this, like when you search something. Now you enabled me to actually have another search visualizer where you can where you can display the search results in a way you want them to. For my case, it would be a graph. But I was not sure at the moment whether I should. Oh, am I still there?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I wasn't really sure if I should implement it like this. I mean, to make it appear in the to make it appear as a search visualizer, or if I should simply add a search field here, with which you can search in the main view. But I think it doesn't matter. I can do both ways, because maybe you don't want to have a graph editor open with all the edit modes, and if you want to search something, then you can. Oops, that's the wrong button. Then you can go here, and then you can have a graph view of your search results, which is basically like this, copying this widget here, using the filter or the results you get from the search, and then displaying it. So this should be very easy, and you already set up TiddlyWiki, so I can use it. So this will be also my my next step to use it like that. And maybe just to demonstrate that, if I create a snapshot here, and I will just name it hello, then it's switching, and then I can okay, I will add, I will say, I don't know, I will just specify a tag to filter it, and then I can simply copy here. This is how the widget code looks like. I can specify a height and a view, and if I now enter hello, and I add an edge here, it also appears. The view here is also updated. So now you also have new-tiddler. So I will link this. But on the other hand, the other graphs I have here won't be updated, because the view prohibits that a node goes through the filter that isn't tagged or doesn't have the properties needed by the filter. So I don't know what else to say.
I have a few more questions. I'm sure others do as well, though. But so when in a view, do you store the actual XY position of each node, or is it recomputed each time I open the view?
No. At the moment, I've just worked on it the recent hour. Or today I worked on that. When you create a node, well, it's not online at the moment, obviously, but when you create a node, then I intercept the event of vis and take the current mouse position, and I will store the coordinates of the node not inside a tiddler. I mean, every node is a tiddler, so you could say, okay, I will store the position of the tiddler of the node in the corresponding tiddler. But you will have a problem here if you have many different views. Then you will have a conflict, because in one view you want the tiddler to be displayed at the bottom, in the other view you want it to appear at the top. So this doesn't work. So my next thought was, okay, I want to I will store it in the view itself, but well, I can open a view to show you how a view actually looks like from its core, because I store all the views in my plugin path, and a view for hello, for example, I just created it. This is how it looks like. It's a transclude of the graph bar. So I recycled the graph bar because I thought it's pretty cool. I like the dynamics and all this. So it's a transclude of the graph bar, but obviously it will. If I change everything here, it's not stored in the graph bar, but it's stored in the current tiddler. So that's why it works. And for example, if I would store additional filter information, let's say we have another filter here in the graphical interface, a filter, I don't know, just a text field where you can add a filter, then I could add a filter here as a property, and it is stored in this view and not in the other views. But going back to the question of where to store positions, it's not good storing positions in a view, because the view for me is a representation of a filter, of a TiddlyWiki filter, and it should not mix with graphics or with display information. So what I will do is I have started to implement that at my personal code repository. I don't know how to call it, my PC, and yes, it will be called something like display ref or something, and in here will be a reference to a tiddler that stores the graphics of the view. So I have a separation, there I store all the coordinates and the constellation of the nodes. And so I don't confuse it with the filter, which is basically which nodes to which tiddlers to select to be displayed, and then the display is done by this other tiddler, which stores all the information where on which place.
So I have a very modest suggestion that tiddler that you just called displays ref. What I call a similar tiddler in the context of my work on Cecily is a map, as in a and then that I quite like that terminology, and it seems that's what you're talking about here as well.
Yes, I initially wanted to go to I always go to a website which generates function names or I don't know how to call it. So but now I don't have to go there. You just said it. I will call it map, and because I didn't know how to call it, I just said it's display ref. And map is a great idea.
Okay, well that's really awesome, Felix. I'm amazed. One of the stories that your roadmap tiddler tells is how you've been enthusiastically working at this for 2 weeks now or so.
2 weeks.
It's a phenomenal piece of work to produce in the time. I'm very interested that the point that you made about TiddlyWiki's Angular-like architecture. Not only is it cool that you were able to perceive that because the documentation is quite poor, but it's very nice that you were able to integrate it with a third-party thing, because there's quite some barriers to doing that. In order to do what you've done, you need to know vis.js well, and you need to know TiddlyWiki well, and yet it's one of the most powerful things that a contributor can do, I think, is to take an existing asset like vis.js and apply it to TiddlyWiki. And so, I'm very excited to see that you've been able to do that, because it's something that I'd like to see more of.
Thank you.
Felix, one question. I think you dynamically load the vis.js resources and also the CSS.
Yes, at the moment it's not bundled. I plan on outsourcing the Viz library. I wanted to ask Jeremy there how I should do it, because I would fire a pull request with Viz.js, I don't know, compiled as a library or as a library plugin, and then
no, I think
I think it should all be. So sorry, Jeremy.
I think Mario is going to say exactly the same thing, which is that I think the best thing to do is to take a copy of the Viz.js source and pack that as a library module within your plugin.
Right.
We may yet get the problem where there are multiple plugins that all want to use Viz.js, and at that point we may want to introduce a shared Viz.js plugin. But I think at the moment for users is probably easier to manage installations when they've only got a single plugin to worry about. I meant to ask you as well, are you producing the plugin under Node.js?
Again, I'm sorry.
Are you working under Node.js to produce the plugin?
No, no, let me think. My design process?
No, the actual coding process. How do you write your code?
Well, I write my code and then I compile everything. I use a task runner which compiles all my files, and in the end I put everything in a folder which is called plugin, or I don't know, which has a plugin info file in there, and then I run the TiddlyWiki commands, which are Node.js commands, and it compiles everything into a single TiddlyWiki. I don't know, maybe that's unconventional, but
no, that's one of the two normal approaches. Is to absolutely is to run the Node.js commands, TiddlyWiki commands.
Yes. What my problem here was also, how do I use inheritance? Which module type do I use when I want to use inheritance? Because I have, if you look at my plugin here, you see I have taskgraph.js and graph and button.js inherit or extend taskgraph. So I didn't know which module type to give them. The way it is at the moment is I have I implemented a factory design, which will let me scroll. Oh my god, that's a lot of code. Okay, so what I'm doing at the moment is I will check the mode. I pass a mode attribute when I call a TiddlyWiki widget, and I will check the mode, and I will see if the mode is graph or button, and then if it's graph, I will, or depending on that, I will require different JS, and then I will load this, and where's the code? Taskgraph. Yeah, and here I pass, I say get class, and I will pass the superclass as, or the constructor object as a property, and then it will, by prototyping, it will extend the class, and then I will return it. But this one here, this code is of type widget. It extends. This is the one that extends the widget class, and the other ones, it's also module type widget. But for example, the button here is just library.
Yeah.
Which I'm loading. I didn't know if it's right, because I
think that is right. Yeah.
This is the right way?
Yeah.
No way.
The other. Let me just think about this for a second. The other. Hang on. Yes, the other option would be make it module type module, and the reason, let me just double check. There used to be some special behavior for modules of type library, and I'm just checking. I don't think there is any.
The problem was when I used a different module type. In some occasions, I don't know why it wasn't loaded properly, or there was some interference with TiddlyWiki at some point. I didn't understand, so I just said, okay, the most neutral type here is library, and I will call the super, or the mother object is then widget, and then I will load the other. Yes.
No, that seems fine. The only thing I notice about that implementation is you'd need to scroll to the bottom of that incredibly long tiddler again, but I think you're resolving which widget to return at the time that this file is required. So that means that they'll need to do a reload in order to switch to a different mode, wouldn't they?
No, because there's no reload because.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I misread the code. Yeah, no, fine. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Usually, you would. This
of
one
course.
here is not an instance. I don't return the instance yet. I return the class.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just like but well, of course, this is ugly because it has no highlighting, and I already said I will upload my project as soon as possible to GitHub, and yes. Also, what did I want to say about?
Well, when you Felix, when you do upload to GitHub, what you if you make commit comments that reference me, then I'll see them. So if you do have questions that you want to ask me about the code, do that, and then they'll pop up, and it's easy for me to deal with them.
Oh, okay, that's good to know, because I've seen that this command. What is it? Refer or reference or?
No, add Germolin. You just need to use.
I just need to type his name, and then he's involved. Okay, that's convenient. Yeah, I will. I didn't want to bother you. I mean, always referencing you for some, but you don't have to look at it. Maybe it's just an offer. If you want to, you can.
Well, I mean, the thing that part of making TiddlyWiki right is making it so that people can come along and write plugins. So I'm very interested in. We've talked about this before in relation to making hooks in the core to make it easier for plugin authors to add stuff. That's very important, and helping plugin authors out is important, because often what I need to do is to update documentation, and in some cases even comments in the code, just to make it easier for the next person.
Okay. Yes, if you say it like that, then I will take the offer. And
cool. Well, and it's also I'm very happy to help, because, as I say, it's going to be a very popular thing, I think, for a lot of people. And you're going to, if you're not careful, you're going to have an overwhelming list of feature requests. Yes.
Yeah, I've already it already scared me off a little bit, because I have to answer so many questions at the moment, and I'm not used to that. Or I have to discuss some enhancements which I haven't thought about yet. But at the moment, I just want to try to publish everything in a stable state, and then I'm ready to discuss everything. Because yes.
I also think that you should make your thing so that it works for you, for your use case, because there will be a lot of feature requests. Yeah. So and like you did with your edges decision, I think it is right. Yeah, because you choose the way which is fast, which works, and then having other features can be done afterwards. So in the second run, or with version 2 or whatever. So I think it's very important that it works for your use case, and then you can decide which features you like, and you can implement them. And I think also
thanks for saying that.
and also you wrote somewhere that you make your master thesis or something like this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you read that. Yeah.
So I think so. We don't want to stop you creating great plugins, but I think we also don't want to stop you work for your thesis. So, you have to carefully decide what's important. Yeah,
it's nice that you say that, because what my intention was, okay, I want to develop this plugin and use it to display all my reviews and literature reviews and all my everything I'm using or I need to build my thesis. And now it turned out okay, you could do this and that, and
it's a project.
It's great. I want to develop it, but at first I need to yes, you are right. I need to stick to my own use cases, and then from there. But as you said, if I publish the plugin, maybe other people can work on the code and can contribute, and I don't have to do it myself.
Yes, that's always wonderful when that happens. Well, I'm so pleased, Felix, and I hope it continues to be a fun experience. You are like the man who walked into the party and then everybody's immediately paying you lots of attention, so it's very good.
Yeah, but I couldn't have done it without the core of TiddlyWiki. I mean, it's so great. The components are really mature, and you can you see that people have thought about the use of or how to use it, and how to integrate plugins or everything, because you realize that when you see how smooth you can choose your functions and update the wiki and use filters and compile filters, and so it's I had a very good fundament or basis which I could use, and so it was only a question how to integrate the vis the vis library with TiddlyWiki, and it was very easy for me to do that, or not easy. It took me 2 weeks, but comparably easy if you compare it to other systems.
Well, that's great to hear. But as I said, don't underestimate the work it takes to integrate things. Is profound, because it requires an understanding of two different things and how they fit together. And it creates an awful lot of value. It really does. The way that you've been able to bring all the value that's locked up in vis.js to the TiddlyWiki community, in such a short time, is a very cool achievement. Very cool.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions, comments, to-do list items for Felix?
Yeah, I have one. I see that what you're showing here is actually called a concept map, if you're aware of it. Yeah, so a concept map is something that has two ideas, and the arrow connects them when you put the caption being something like a verb. It's usually object 1 has object 2, depends on object 2, things like that. Have you been thinking about this being only this kind of map? Most of the people are interested in mind maps when it comes to this kind of mapping, and I've been thinking for a long time TiddlyWiki is just the perfect house for hosting such kind of map. So is it possible for the future, I'm not putting a feature request now, of course, that this is made like an option for what kind of map you want to build? So mainly it's graphically different, but the main difference is that it has only one central idea and the rest go outwards from them.
Okay, the thing is, when I started building this plugin, is my microphone on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. At first, I really wanted just to draw graphs. I didn't even think about mind maps at this point. I wanted to represent ontologies, which means I say I have a resource and I connect with this resource, or I make a network. And then, I don't know, somebody mentioned mind maps, and I thought, okay, you could also use it for mind maps, why not? And then only the second thought was, okay, I will turn this also into a mind map tool. So now I've already taken some steps towards this idea that this can be a mind map. I mean, a mind map is, in its core, it's a graph. And but you are right, a mind map has certain properties. It has a central topic, and and everything else builds around that central topic. So I think it would be a good idea to enhance this graph to also become a mind map tool. I don't know, by saying this is a central topic. You have a view, and you can say one node is a central topic in a view. Yes, one node is a central topic in a view, and then this one will be always placed in the center, and then you can make your decision how to arrange the nodes around it. And also, I totally forgot about it. My next step was, when I started designing this plugin, I wanted to make a graph system and build a ticket system on top, which means you can specify dates, due dates, or give a tiddler a field how important this tiddler is. Let's say filing a report, or I don't know, and you say this has to be done due Saturday, and it's very important. And then I wanted to change the color of the nodes from blue or from transparent to red. So you can tag all your nodes with ticket, and then your tiddlers with ticket, and then you can have a view which is especially made for a ticket system, and then you can specify your dependencies. Okay, first I need to do that, this and that, and from all these tasks you have to do the ones which have a high priority or a due date which is very close. They will become really bright or big, or I don't know. So this was my intention. After building a graph system, I wanted to create a ticket system. So now people said, okay, we want mind maps. Everybody says we love mind maps. So I thought, okay, maybe it's also a good idea to go in this direction, creating mind maps. I don't know, did I answer your question a little bit, or did?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll be anticipating it. And you mentioned that what you just described, I think, is the GTD methodology, Getting Things Done by David Allen. Maybe you have read that book. About,
I don't read books. No, I haven't read this one.
Well, this is the simplest and most efficient way of note taking and getting actions on it. So what you're describing as a ticketing system is exactly this. You can see it on the internet.
I will certainly take a look.
Yeah, I'm telling because I'm also interested in this, and it just cries out for being inside the TiddlyWiki.
Yes, because you can. I personally use TiddlyWiki as, I don't know. I try to represent my life, or my to-dos, my tasks, and my knowledge. I try to represent everything in a TiddlyWiki file, and but what I'm missing is to be notified. This is your next step. This is what you have to do. I mean, not notified by email, but visually by seeing a node in a graph becoming bigger or something like that. And yeah, I would take a look at the book you recommended.
Felix, there's a couple of questions in the side panel as well.
I didn't even know.
Yaka is saying, how practical would it be to scale nodes according to some filters or criteria? For instance, the number of connections or urgency.
I'm sorry, I'm still searching.
There is a top icon. It's called chat. It's the blue icon.
Above the screen share icon, and then
okay.
There's a little.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't listen to the question you were referring to.
I was just referring to Yaka's question, which labeled Armchair Designer at 526, where he's asking whether it would be possible to have the size of the nodes in the graph to be proportional to something like the number of connections.
Yes.
Or
yes.
Urgency.
Yes, this was my intent also to maybe to, I don't know, to say you have 10 incoming connections, and if you have 10 incoming connections, for each connection the bubble or the node will become bigger. So it's obviously it's still not there, but this is my vision that the node visualization is calculated from, I don't know, from some aspects you define.
But I have the request there to make it configurable, because I was thinking about how to make the bubble smaller. Or probably the text bigger, because I'm always zooming, and in this case, in normal cases, I'm zooming into plus, so I say okay 120%, but with the graph visualization, I'm zooming to 80% or something like this, so there is more space for the graph. So I would like to make the text a little bit bigger and the bubble smaller.
It's all possible.
Yeah, I've seen the setting. I've seen the setting. So
yeah.
Karen, sorry, Felix. Something else I'd like to ask you about there is to just connecting back up that what you've showed us. You just told us about your using TiddlyWiki personally and your personal use of TiddlyWiki. It sounds like that's got quite a broad scope. And you've also had experience, so it gives you an experience of using TiddlyWiki. You've had an experience of TiddlyWiki's internals through doing the plugin development that you've been doing. And I'm very curious what relationship, if any, you see with the education, with the subject matter of your thesis, I guess. Do you think that what do you think TiddlyWiki's role could be, should be, might be in education? How might it support learning? That kind of thing. I'd be interested in your sort of professional opinions on that.
Well, my master's thesis is maybe not right on this topic you just mentioned, but because I have looked at different systems, I can still answer the question. I think what's really unique to TiddlyWiki is that you can instantly scroll to different tiddlers, and if you have a normal wiki, then it's you have to click on something and then it gets a reload and everything is rebuilt, the whole HTML is re-rendered, and if you click on another node, maybe it's you cannot also, for example, TiddlyWiki, you can import content from another tiddler, or you can transclude information and all this. So it's a very dynamic, fast way of switching through all the information. So what's great for me, or what I really think why TiddlyWiki is such a great tool, is because it's so fast in my mind. When I develop an idea, I quickly separate the idea into different parts and try to jump from these parts in my brain. And when I use TiddlyWiki, I can reflect that. I mean, I can create a tiddler, put some content in there, create a list. The list is automatically updated by a filter, and I can put other tiddlers in there really fast. I can close them, I can filter them, I can tag them, and it's in an instant everything. So I think if you are really in a design process, or in a process where you have to understand a topic, or yes a topic, and you have to, then it's always switching between different thoughts, and this switching has to be done fast, and TiddlyWiki supports you with being fast and being able to instantly get all the information, switch between the information without being bothered about too much about how to insert the information, because it's really fast. You can insert it immediately, and you can retrieve it immediately. So it's a perfect partner for your design process or your thinking process.
And do you think that that's general? I mean, do you think that because so there's an activity there that you were talking about that is being able to jot things down quickly and then being able to add structure to them, roughly, I think. And you were commenting that the software needs to be fast and speedy in order for that to feel like, well, I'm putting words in your mouth here, Felix, but in order for that to feel like it's an extension to your brain or something, that it needs to be as instinctive. In order for something to become like instinctive behavior, it needs to be fast. But I'm curious that the process that you're underpinning there is a learning process. You know, so it's about recording information and then structuring it so that you can reuse it. And do you think that reflects? That's what you need with the learning that you're doing. But do you think that that's a universal process that people could use in order to manage the acquisition of learning? That's not quite the right word, but to manage the information that they're acquiring as they're learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you always have different bits of information in your head, and you don't know how to structure them. Let's say usually a person would open a Word document and simply write down everything he knows. And but in this Word document, it's not the structure you need to get yourself organized. It's not made for it's TiddlyWiki is, I don't know what is it called, a non-linear personal web notebook. Yes, it's non-linear. So this is the way we think. We think non-linear. So if I write something down, I have to jump to the top. Well, if you regard it, if you look at it from a visual perspective, I have to go to the top again where I wrote something down, then to the bottom. But actually, my thoughts are not ordered by positions, top to bottom and all this. But with TiddlyWiki, I can jump around very quickly. So this jumping without carrying.
Oh. Hang on, so sorry. Felix, you just got muted somehow by accident, I think. And I can't unmute you.
Well, I can do it myself.
Oh,
but...
there you're back. Yes, good. Sorry. Nathan's just apologizing in the sidebar.
Can I make a last point? I think the problem here is people who don't know that TiddlyWiki exists. If they knew, and also they sometimes many people are unorganized, so they don't even think it's necessary to have a something like TiddlyWiki where you can quickly produce output from your head straight to a wiki and save it. And but I think it's the perfect tool if you are in a process where you have to think about something. And this is also why the idea came to me that connecting a library like Viz or a graph library with TiddlyWiki, because you can now make tiddlers really fast and you can connect them on a meta level, because at the moment, if you have connections, they are made between, they are hidden inside the text. I mean, you can write a tiddler and you can link from one tiddler to another. It's already a graph then there, but the relationship is not obvious. It doesn't jump in your face. So I wanted to have a meta view on all my tiddlers, which I regard as my own thoughts in the end, and then I want to have a map on which I see, okay, these thoughts are related in this way. So I thought it's a very good fit bringing these two together, the graph and the TiddlyWiki.
I mustn't monopolize the conversation. Let's give other people a chance to speak. But that was fascinating, Felix. A lot of what you were saying there about the, well, in my words, it's about how TiddlyWiki reflects the way that I think my brain works or wants to work, and it sort of actively then tries to support that way of working. And I think you've recognized very much the same points that I keep banging on about recording information in small chunks, about the straitjacket that a linear document like Microsoft Word provides. I'm very curious about something that you touched on at the end there as well, which is the barriers to TiddlyWiki becoming more popular, or becoming more widely used. And you mentioned one was that people don't, well, I have a thesis that everybody thinks that they would be happier if they were more organized, and that we might choose not to do anything about it, but that most of us have this kind of nagging thought at the back of the head that if we were a bit more organized, we'd be more successful, happier, etc. I think that being organized is actually a primal human need. Often that need is satisfied by us giving ourselves the illusion of being organized, you know, the sort of activities that you do to make it feel like you're organizing the world, even if you're not. And I think you've also recognized in TiddlyWiki as a piece of software what it's trying to help you to do. And I'm just endlessly fascinated by how much of that is because you, in some sense, are like me, and how much of that is because we're both like everybody, if you see what I mean. You know, how much of this is universal?
I think, yes.
I am like that too.
Yes, yeah. We've all found each other.
Yeah, I think this is generally true. So if you like TiddlyWiki, then there is a common behavior. And also, as Felix said, what I like very much is that if you have an idea, you just write it down, and then the idea is out of your head. But you know that it's not lost, because sometimes you have great ideas, and then 2 days afterwards you know that you had a great idea, but you don't know the idea anymore. Yeah. So and I think this is really great, so that you just note it and it's done, and then you find it again if you want.
What I truly realized only because of TiddlyWiki, I mean, I've thought about it before, but TiddlyWiki really made me realize this, is that knowledge exists when you can connect information and you can quickly access this information. And with TiddlyWiki, this is possible. You can make great connection between your information, and it's when you need it, it's there. It's not like you have to search for a long time, because you have great filter mechanisms. You have great possibilities to structure your data in a very simple way, or your information. And so I think TiddlyWiki is really helping you to have, or to assist you in your knowledge, or to put knowledge down and to retrieve it again. It's very amazing. And Jeremy asked the question about whether it's only us that wants to be organized, or whether everybody wants to be organized and it's a human need and they are just not aware. Well, I think the problem is people don't actually realize that they are unorganized in their daily life. So they try to, this is a very common thing I see, that people don't think about the tools they are using to get something done, but they just think of the task, and they don't want to become better in, or they don't want to discover great tools for the future, because well, if I take my friends for example, I hope they don't see this video, but when they want to do something or they prepare something, some text or some task or whatever, they will always in all these years they will open a Word document and start inserting text, making a list. This is the only structure they know, they have in their head, making a list and making titles or subheadings, and this is how they organize themselves. But they have never spent a thought about going a step further, reflecting upon their own way of doing things, and saying, okay, this is not the best way to organize myself. But they keep going and going and going until they are 40 or 50 years old, and they never had a professional attitude towards their own way of organization. And I think this is what keeps. This is their own decision. I think they would be, of course, they would be happier if somebody came and says, hey, there's this great tool like TiddlyWiki, or many other great tools exist to get yourself organized, but they don't have the heart to incorporate these tools and to say, whoa, they don't understand that it's a great enhancement for them. They see it as a burden to learn something new, but it's actually it's very simple, but they don't see the necessity, and they keep going, and in the end they have spent so much more time using Word documents or other ways of organizing themselves, because they haven't reflected about how to properly do it and how to be professional. Because I think being professional is not in your job, but the most important thing is being a professional in your personal life, and because life is short and you need to get things done, and you need to discover the world and all this. So I think the problem is, I don't know, it's hard to promote TiddlyWiki sometimes because people don't have the attitude, but it's not the fault of TiddlyWiki.
They want to just keep using what they were using 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're not interested in learning something new, and they worry that the burden of learning the new tool isn't going to pay back in them being more efficient, presumably.
Yes, and I don't even think the most people think so far. I think they have a very narrow perspective on which tools to use. I mean, if everybody was using TiddlyWiki, I think they would, of course, also use it. But because everybody is using, I don't know, Word or any other textual, Google Docs. But I think unless you give them a great push, they would not go in this direction. But I think if you have if you go to if you have some unique features like a graph, for example, for TiddlyWiki, or if you really highlight the unique features and the great potential, some certain really unique stuff that only TiddlyWiki has, because I think TiddlyWiki is unique in several ways. Maybe some people get enlightened all of a sudden and say, whoa, okay, this feature that I can jump, or that I can take my whole wiki with a USB stick, or that I quickly make notes, or all this, this is so great, and I can easily integrate it in my daily life. I mean, TiddlyWiki is great as a companion, you know. You can always have it with you, and you can always update it and get information. I don't know why more people are using it, actually.
You know, by telling about your friends, you actually describe my colleagues.
Yes.
Or I'm leading with them, and it's unless I make them read it, then they see how important having it is. So it's with most people it's like that.
But I think also Felix made one point, so that we need some let's say special applications or additions in our case that can do one thing well. So and then we say, okay, there is, let's say, an easy to-do list, or there is the graph visualization which can be used for brainstorming if you use it in the mind mapping mode. Yeah? And if we have several additions, then maybe different users will start using it, and then after a while they will see, okay, there is something more that can be done. It's not just this, but this is the one point that attracted them.
I think Felix's plugin does have an interesting role to play as well, that by making the structure of TiddlyWiki be visual, it helps people who aren't so visually minded to figure out what TiddlyWiki is about, because I think those of us regular users of TiddlyWiki, we already see that kind of graph structure in our heads. And so it feels when we use TiddlyWiki as though we're manipulating data in that way. But obviously, I think that's very hard for an outsider to see. By having the Taskgraph plugin, that is something very concrete that we can point to that shows how TiddlyWiki works. It kind of exposes its innards slightly more.
Yeah, there is also one point, that's why I asked if it is possible to create the structure or a visualization of the tag structure, because TiddlyWiki has the information about the reference. So every tiddler, you can have, if you look at the info button, you can see references. And with this, from let's say starting from one root tiddler, you could create a graph which exposes the references. And then if you select a node, then this node automatically can expose its references. So you get something like a cluster, yeah? And then you can say click, 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 and it gets bigger and bigger, and then you start to see the bigger picture. And
I think
this would be very interesting.
May I say, I think this has already been done at one point. When I started using TiddlyWiki, there was a plugin. I also used. It was also based on vis.js. It's time, or you could make a timeline.
Yes.
And you could also say this is a filter and display all the relationships. I don't know, something like that. But I think it's this existed, but I could easily incorporate this idea also in my plugin.
Yeah,
so
I know. I was asking because I think it's only creating the structure that you can handle, and then you give it to the visualization library and it draws it.
Yes.
I think the main problem is only creating structure.
Yes, I think what would be the solution is that you create a small processor on top of the graph system, which you say where you can say go and calculate a graph or create edges from all the tags, or analyze follow the link structure, so I don't know, and then just pass it to the graph system, or then create graphs. I don't know if it's the right idea to integrate that already this into the graph. I mean, make it bring it into the core of the graph system.
No, it should be plugin, something like this. So it should be a vis.js plugin probably.
Yes, like when I use a task runner to compile all my projects, to minimize my JavaScript and to compile my SCSS files and all this, then I pipe my output from one. Ich habe gerade Videoübertragung, ne? Whatever. My girlfriend just arrived.
Okay. Priorities, Felix. Don't worry.
She didn't know it's recorded, so I tried to warn her not to get undressed. Or yes. but yeah, I think if you build a separate plugin which calculates all the necessary relationships and nodes, and then it could be easily represented by a graph, or displayed by a graph. Yes.
Yeah, to elaborate a bit on that, and going back to a point that you made earlier about how valuable it could be as a way to display the internal logic of TiddlyWiki, to use graphs as a matter of course. I think one of the things that sometimes is a difficulty for non-coder users when using TiddlyWiki is that very often there is a very close relationship between the way you compose your content and the way data is structured, depending on whether you will use fields or simply tags to organize your data and so on. And it can get in the way of people trying to refactor or present their data in different ways, because it can be sometimes difficult to tell in advance how much work will be involved in rewriting part of your content so that it can be properly structured. It's not always easy to refactor and present content differently after the fact if you haven't accounted for a given presentation in advance. Obviously, it intersects between a user problem and a technical problem, so it may be hard to delineate where the responsibility lies for that. But maybe it's something that could be helped a bit by simply pointing that to people who develop plugins as a potential difficulty down the road for the users. And try to have plugins that, as much as possible, make it easy to integrate content, maybe pre-existing content, for example, or simply content that people develop without necessarily knowing in advance how they want to render it. Maybe, I don't know, like not depending too heavily on special fields. Maybe that's a way to go. I have no solution a priori on that, but I think it's sometimes something that gets in the way of adoption of very useful plugins, that people see stuff. I remember it happened a lot with TiddlyWiki Classic, that sometimes you will find a plugin that was absolutely fantastic, but then you realize that in order to make use of it, you will have to rewrite
I know exactly
50% of your content.
This is always the process of at the very beginning, when you start recording notes, you actually don't know the structure. This is a problem. So the structure evolves with the content. And sometimes, as you say, after a while you have, I don't know, you have 100 tiddlers, but then you see that your structure actually is wrong. So then you have to take the work and restructure it.
And I think we need, in the core, we need more refactoring features, such as search and replace, such as put every tiddler that has a particular tag, giving it a particular field, and that kind of thing.
So we talked about that a bit the other time, relative to, well, it was evoked a couple of times, about this idea of being able to split long tiddlers automatically into small tiddlers so that they're easier to handle after the fact. That sort of thing, and being able to track tags or keywords and generate fields from that, or replace fields or tag on the fly. Anything that could make it easier to mechanically edit encores and references to make it easier after the fact to refactor could go a long way, as long as people know it's there, because that's also oftentimes the big problem, that there is a solution, but it's hard for people to put their finger on it.
And I also think what we need is some information about best practices, where you have some information.
Hi.
And you tell, hi, and you tell it to users. that they should use the structure in that way, because it will help them in the future. So
yes.
I think this is also important. If we have some best practices, that we make them visible.
I think one of the ways that we can do that is with the macros that are in the core. So, for instance, the table of contents macros,
yes,
they imply a particular structuring, and it would be, I think, very easy to create a version of or an exposure of Felix's functionality which rendered exactly the same content. And so maybe one of the things that might happen is that we get more and more of those kinds of congregations on particular data structures. Another one actually was with the timeline plugin, where that I think had a start and end field on each tiddler to to indicate where it should be shown on the timeline. And so again, if a plugin like that gets popular, then it'll establish a convention that then other plugins can take advantage of. We are getting close to finish time, so I want to make sure that we make the best use of the time. Branimir, the highlight JS stuff, I'm wondering if we might actually discuss that on the group, because I'd like to keep we're a bit focused on kind of user issues, and I think it might be good to just keep the focus there and not go to development stuff. Are you okay with that, Branimir?
Yeah, no problem.
But of course, we GitHub or the group will be fine. The thing I would selfishly like to show is the recent export functionality that I've added. The reason is because this is a great time for feedback about it, obviously, because it hasn't yet gone out into 5.15. It'll just take me a second to show you what's changed. So if I just do a build and then refresh in my browser.
And show us the icon, of course. The new icon. Is there a new icon?
Yes, so this is the, let me make things ridiculously large. So this is a very controversial thing already, that we've got a problem that this icon and this icon, although they've got different orientations and slightly different shapes, I think particularly the way that they both feature an arrowhead breaking a barrier makes them look too much the same. I had a marvelous suggestion from Matt via email just before the Hangout started, which was that maybe what we should change the save button to is something along the lines of the tick button. And I quite like that. So he's picking up on the fact that and it would work quite well with this feedback, that the green tick indicates that yes, your stuff has been saved. So that may be a way around that problem. But right now, we've got this icon. So it shows up in three places. You've got export all tiddlers over to the right. You've got export this tiddler on the tiddler toolbar button. And if I do a filter search, then you also get the button accompanying the search results. No, let me find a tag that actually exists. There you go. In each case, the action is the same. When you click the button, you get a menu of export formats. The CSV file gives you all of a tiddler per row of the file and one column for each field. The JSON file format's a standard JSON file. If we do tiddlers as static HTML, this will take a second or two to generate, but it's now making a static HTML rendering of all the tiddlers. Prompts me for a location to save the file, and then if I open it, you can see that it is indeed a static rendering of all the tiddlers. So I think that's really useful because it means that you can, well, generate stuff, generate special views of your data within the desktop edition. Being able to do things like this, saving all of those tiddlers as JSON. Sorry, Mario, go on.
Mm-hmm. Is it the links? What happens with the links if you export them as HTML?
Then they get turned into internal links. So I don't know if you can see down here, but yeah. So there's each tiddler, when you look at the static HTML of it, there's in addition to the normal tiddler frame, there's somewhere, there we go, there's an anchor tag with a name, and that's what the browser does the jumping to.
Okay.
The CSV format, I think I just did it, I saved to JSON, that's not that interesting. But if I do the CSV format of everything, this is quite interesting. Problem number one is if I'll save that file as a CSV from Chrome, and now if I drag that to numbers, which is the spreadsheet on the Mac, then numbers says, oh no, numbers has opened it, okay. I had problems before with it not opening it. So here's a spreadsheet with all of the tiddler values in, so you can see across the top. Those are all the different fields encountered in the tiddlers that I exported, and they come through. This is the raw wiki text. We've got the title in the left-hand column. So I think this is one of the areas where there's probably quite a few different CSV variants that different people will want, and either the core or plugins will cater for that. And there's a couple of wrinkles. One is we support the .tid file format, but if I save all tiddlers as a .tid file, because the .tid file only contains a single tiddler, it only saves the first tiddler in the list. So this guy is fine. I'll save action delete tiddler widget as a .tid file, and you get what you would expect. If we open it, there you go, a plain .tid file. So I posted a pre-release, a link to a pre-release in the group. I'm particularly interested in any ideas or suggestions for making this more useful. What other file formats might we include here? RSS jumped into my mind a little bit earlier, but there may be others. Hiya.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hello, Jeremy. It's Danielo here.
Go for it, Danielo.
Hello.
Hello. I have a question about the HTML export function.
Mm-hmm.
If you export a single tiddler, the needed CSS rules are contained in the result HTML file. Let's say, for example, if I have a snippet of code highlighted, it will be highlighted also when I export it to HTML.
Yes, it should be. An interesting experiment to try. We could try it and see, but yes, it absolutely should be highlighted too. So at the moment, the file format that I use for the static HTML representation, it includes inline CSS, so it's not terribly efficient. But the obstacle to producing a separate CSS file is that the way that the browser is set up, we can only save one file at once. And that's a shame, because it would be quite cool to, for instance, be able to, when we save all tiddlers as a .tid file, it'd be quite nice if it downloaded 400 separate .tid files. But as I say, that isn't really practical with the way that I'm downloading files at the moment.
Okay. And what about some part JavaScript? I mean, if I have more than one event listeners attached to a DOM node, will they get support or not?
No, they won't. So just the static HTML gets exported. So that means if I let me screen share again. I always forget to do this. So if I so for instance, if I export this advanced search tiddler as static HTML, and then open it, you get the tabs and you get the cursor changing to indicate that you can click on it, and that's because it's a button with some CSS, but there's no JavaScript attached. And obviously if I change that, it doesn't change. But it's, I think it's sufficient for generating EPUBs, for instance. Gosh, that's one of the file formats that I should really look at, actually, isn't it?
Okay, thank you. I'm receiving a call, sorry.
Oh, no worries, Danielo.
Jeremy, I also think that if you have your own templates, then you could include some script if you want.
Yes, indeed. You can plug. You can drop in your own templates. So that drop down of output formats are just tiddlers with a particular tag.
Mm-hmm.
You can easily drop in more. So I'm quite pleased, but I do have I've got a cunning plan that, as I say, it would be incredibly useful, I think, if we could download more than one file at once. What I'm sort of trying to resist doing, because it's such an interesting programming problem that it might be a distraction, is I've been looking at the zip file format, and I'm sure developers on the call will know that there are JavaScript libraries for creating zip files, but they're big and not suitable for the TiddlyWiki core. But an uncompressed zip file exists, and it's basically just the file contents concatenated with some metadata. And so I believe that I could write a very, very small JavaScript library that generates a zip file, and then that would allow us to save multiple files in one go, which I think would be incredibly useful.
Will it use zip, or will it be a tar file then? Because if you say uncompressed, a tar is just adding. Yeah.
Well, that may be possible, actually. I was looking at the zip file format only because it's the thing I'm most familiar with. But the zip file format I specifies a number of different compression algorithms that have an ID, and basically one of them is I'm an uncompressed file. And so it's one of those things where things like zip files are dead easy to generate. It's reading them that's complicated, parsing them.
I think zip file format is also known by Windows users, whereas the tar file they don't.
Yeah,
touch
of course.
So,
Yes. No, of course that would be the case. Yeah, yeah.
And Unix users don't have a problem with zip. So
good. Yeah.
May I ask a question? I was curious whether it's possible to export tiddlers that contain, for example, lists which are dynamically created. At the moment, I took a look at it, and it exports the raw tiddler content, not transcluded or.
Right. You'd have to write a template that used the list widget to render each of the tiddlers identified in the list. But you can.
Okay.
But you see what I mean? That template tiddler that you create can do anything. It can use list widgets and so on to string content together in any way that you like. So you're not restricted to generating that current static export generates TiddlyWiki style HTML.
Okay.
It's possible actually that we should also have an option for generating just completely plain HTML, because that's the simplest thing to reuse. Awesome. I think then that we should probably draw to a close, guys.
One question.
Oh, go on. Go. Sorry for it.
Jeremy, when do you plan to release What is it? 5:15?
5:15, yes. So I think this week feels like it could be about right. I think with the last release was the 26th, I think, of last month. 22nd. So yeah, I think this week feels about right to me. There's been some quite substantial changes this time around, and I've been fairly careful that I've repeatedly posted links to the pre-release on the discussion group. So I'm hoping that people have been playing with it, and well, in fact, obviously I have had some bug reports about the pre-release.
And the hooks that are needed for Felix plugin, they are in already.
Oh, yes, I have a question about that. I have all the, I think I have everything I need, but just a syntax question. The new here, or the new-tiddler message, or also the new the dialog message to create a model. I didn't quite get how to pass the parameters for the message. Should I pass a JSON object in the or do I write it still as attributes?
The message format, you've got the event object, and then the param property that's a string, and then the param object property that's a hash map of strings, and that's what you should be producing.
But when I say new, when I say fire the event model, how do I pass the arguments so they are compiled into a param object?
Oh, you don't need to. So just a hash map. So just a straightforward JavaScript hash map with named properties in it.
Oh, okay.
Which is to say, you'll have something like, I'm typing into the sidebar here, param object. I'm not sure that my example will help, but that's trying to show how the param object might just be set to a hash map of named strings.
Okay, so I will just pass a param object as a. Okay.
So it's not like the attributes hash map, which has things like a type property and so on each attribute. It's just a straightforward hash map of strings.
Okay. I will just quickly check how I'm currently calling that in my code. If you give me a minute, then you can just discuss, and I will.
Yeah, well, in fact, I must go in a couple of minutes. So it was to say to everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. I thought today's session was tremendous. Branimir, I'm sorry we didn't get to the Highlight JS plugin discussion, but very pleased that I think we did do justice to Felix's work on the Taskgraph plugin. It was really great to see that. And I actually, before I close, Yaka has just posted a link to his summary for today. Which just says that we talked about Taskgraph and we talked about the export stuff. So that was
okay. I have no questions. It's
well, yeah. Felix, this to say, once your code is on GitHub, then put line comments on your commits, mentioning me if there is anything to discuss, and I will be very happy to help as best I can, of course. So what we normally do at the end of the Hangout is wave goodbye to everybody, but so thank you everybody for your time today, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week for we'll be having the session as normal.
Bye.
Many
Bye.
Bye. Don't ring off.